This is the story of a man, a Turkish Muslim, a scholar, a preacher, and the global movement of social activists he inspires. In 2013, Time magazine named him one of the most influential leaders in the world. Because of his influence, at-risk children are now being educated in hundreds of countries. The sick are being treated, and the starving fed, often at great personal risk. It's also because of his influence and the collective power of the movement that Fethullah Gulen is feared and even reviled in his native Turkey. And as a Muslim leader of a powerful global movement, he is scrutinized in the United States, where he lives in self-imposed exile. To explore this controversial holy man and the movement of Turkish Muslims he inspires, we're going to examine Turkish history and Sufi mysticism, and go to just a few of the places where these idealists are working to serve humanity in order to please God. The movement began in the 1960s on Turkey's west coast. Fethullah Gulen was a young preacher at the time, and his sermons were radically different from other religious men.
Normally, we go to mosques and we hear preaching about Islam, how Prophet behaved like this is what is written in Quran, etc., etc. I remember him speaking to university students. They were talking about thermodynamics and the first law, second law. After explaining this scientific issue, he added some verses from the Quran, and I was shocked with the combination of a scientific issue with a Quranic verse.
Gulen's message was that these are perfectly compatible with Muslim faith. A person can be a person of faith, at the same time a scientist, can do science. Democracy is probably the best form of governance for everybody. So all his messages were positive. They were messages I was looking for.
Gulen not only showed the connection between Islam and science, he made the connection between Islam and modern democratic life, as well as service to God's creation.
He wants to convince people that to be Muslims, you can't just fulfill your ritual obligations. The service of God that you focus on in your ritual obligations has to shape your life and inform your life in terms of service to all humanity.
Turkey is a Muslim country, but because of its location at the crossroads of East and West, its historic appreciation of diversity, ethnic variety, mystical Sufi influences, and 20th century radical secularism, its interpretation of Islam is unique in the Muslim world.
Since they were on the very edge of the West, they were on the edge of Europe, they discovered modernity before other Muslim societies. So when you went back to a century ago in Istanbul, you would have Muslim liberals speaking how compatible Islam and liberalism is, or how compatible Islam and democracy is, and they would have Islamic arguments for those things.
The Ottoman Empire was known for its interfaith, intercultural openness. It was very hospitable to Catholics. The Ottoman Empire provided hospitality and welcome to the Jews when they were fleeing the Inquisition.
Turkish Islam has been always more tolerant, basically because Turkey was an empire which lasted more than 600 years, could not be a theocracy. There was a built-in tolerance, not because they had good hearts and they were enlightened and so on, but the logic of the institution, imperial institution, forced them to be tolerant towards others.
But after the Ottoman Empire's defeat in World War I, and its subsequent collapse. Ideas about progressive or democratic Islam were abandoned in favor of a fiercely enforced secularism. Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, war hero and first president of Turkey, is the only man in the world who can be credited with almost single-handedly creating a republic out of an empire. And he did it by creating an ideology that was antithetical to the Ottoman Islamic mindset. Looking to the West as a model, Atatürk believed that modernizing Turkey could only be accomplished by abandoning traditional Islamic culture. To enforce Turkey's emancipation from religion, he implemented strict laws and policies that effectively removed it from public life and politics.
A secular state means separation, which means freedom to believe or not to believe. And in fact, secularism in Turkey in the old days was a very negative about religion and in fact anti-Islam.
They believe that if a person is faithful, they cannot think rationally. Therefore, they are not fit to govern themselves. Therefore, until people are ready, they believed, they should be governed with an authoritarian system.
To protect the people from their own weakness for faith and maintain the power once afforded to religious authority during the Ottoman times, Turkey's secular government exercised complete control over religion. In 1966, Fethullah Gulen was a young preacher appointed to a state-monitored Quranic school, where his popularity grew in direct proportion to his pious pragmatism.
He began saying, what Turkey needs right now, like all of the Middle East, is education for its young people. We need to teach people, not in madrasas, not in mosques, but we need to teach them math and science and notions of democracy.
Ama Allah'ın rızası, herkes belli bir yolla onu takip eder. Kimisi cephede, serhatlarda askerlik yapar, onu takip eder. Kimisi tekkede, zaviyede, post nişindir, orada takip eder. Benim inancıma göre en önemli mesele eğitimdir. İnsana yapılan yatırımdır.
By the late 1970s, Fethullah Gulen had attracted a solid core of Turkish businessmen who were opening tutoring centers and dormitories to help students outside of the elite class. Eventually, they began to build schools. In 1982, the first school established by the followers of Fethullah Gulen opened in Western Turkey. It had only 18 students at the time, a number that has swelled to over 600, with most boarding at the school.
I think living here is better than home because here we can study with our teachers. And the best students in Turkey are coming here.
And are you the best student?
Yes. My favorite subject is biology. I like the bugs and insects, the little animals.
I want to become doctor and I want to go to the different country, foreign country.
I want to be famous like Dr. Oz.
Do you have a boyfriend?
No, never.
Do you have a girlfriend?
That's all.
Gulen is not a liberal emancipator of any kind. He's a very religious person. But if I were to judge by what Gulen was preaching, he is preaching equality of sexes. He is calling on girls to educate themselves.
Today, Turkey's Gulen-inspired schools are known for academic achievement, conservative moral values, and round-the-clock attention to the students. A model that opened the door to higher education for children who don't belong to the secular elite ruling class. But Fethullah Gulen's democratic vision was a global one.
Dünyanın dört bir yanına göç tertip edecek arkadaşlarımız. Müminin niyeti amelinden hayırlıdır esasına dayanarak halis niyetle dört bir yana şeddiri hal etsin gitsinler.
Saraybosna şehri kuşatma altında kalmış. Tabii Saraybosna'ya giriş farklı tünelden. Karanlıkta ayaklarınızın altları su, havasız, arkanızda sırtınızda çantanız. Fiziksel şartları zordu ama biz hedefimize vardığımız için çok sevinçliydik açıkçası. Çok mutluyduk, mutlu olmuştuk.
As the movement was gaining momentum in Turkey, the war in Bosnia was pitting Muslims, Eastern Orthodox Serbians, and Croatian Catholics against each other. Sarajevo sustained the longest siege of a capital in the history of modern warfare. Nearly 12,000 civilians were killed and 56,000 more wounded. But these two men, armed only with their desire to please God through service and with only $300 between them, crawled through a tunnel to get into the war zone, not as soldiers, but as teachers.
Bizi Hoca Efendi buraya yardım etmek için, buradaki insanların yardımına koşmak için gönderdi.
Biz burada nasıl olacak, hayatta mı kalacağız, aç mı kalacağız, susuz mu kalacağız? Daha çok buraya varmak bizim için bir hedefti.
Bombalar düşüyor, savaş devam ediyor. Hocam belki biz orada ölebiliriz, dönemeyebiliriz. O zaman ne yapalım? İşte bizim hiç olmazsa cenaze namazımızı uzakta da olsanız kılabilir misiniz? Hoca Efendi orada duygulandı biraz, gözleri buğulandı, bakışları sertleşti ve ben sizi gönderiyorum oraya ölmeye değil, ben sizi oraya hizmet etmeye, okul açmaya gönderiyorum. Allah yardımcınız olsun, Allah yolunuzu açsın. İşte her gün gidiyorduk bakanın oraya, özellikle İbrahim abiler. Her gün bakanın oraya gidiyoruz, geliyoruz, gidiyoruz. Bir gün işte ne okulu? Devlet düşmek üzere, halk perişan, okul olmaz. Ama biz ya hiç bırakmadık kapıyı çalmayı, sürekli kapıyı çaldık. Bir gün bizi çağırdılar, tamam size okul binasını vereceğiz. Bir Sırp kışlasını bize ilk defa okul binası verdiler.
To pay for the school that people in the movement had already risked their lives for, Fethullah Gulen's followers in Istanbul organized a charity soccer match featuring world-famous player Diego Maradona. It was their first large-scale effort as a movement, and Gulen himself spoke to the enormous crowd.
Sporun diliyle, evrensel sporun diliyle dünya medyasına, dünya halklarına, hususiyle Samit infiali içinde öteden beri olan bunca fezai ve fecai arenada kavga edenleri seyrediyor gibi seyreden alemi İslam halklarına bir şey anlatır mülazasıyla. Bir kere de evrensel sporun diline sığındık.
The event raised enough money to open 3 schools in Bosnia, one of which was attended by Syed Amic, who remembers his Turkish teacher and lessons of love and forgiveness.
When I see Mr. Ali, with his smile, he is taking your heart. There is no badness in him. What do we need in the world? Food, drinking, just to save our life. But they come and they are going to teach us. For us, it was very unbelievable. In our school, there are Serbian, Croatian, Bosnian, and they really teach us, you cannot hit me, how much can I love you? Let's try to love people. And that teacher come here and teach us something like that. If they didn't come here, I never be thinking like now. Maybe I will hate that people from another side.
Decades after the war, the Turks remain in their adopted country as teachers as well as sponsors.
We live together and we sing together, Muslims, Catholics, Orthodox. We must respect each other. We must respect culture each other. We must respect religion each other, because we have only one God, and He's created us.
There is a level of cynicism that I think those of us in the West, many of us, have to confront when we encounter a movement of people like the Gulen movement, because they are very committed to what they do and they live deeply from their values. I have asked them, hundreds of them, what draws you to this movement? How did you get involved in this movement? And for many of them, they wanted their children to go to the best schools. And the best schools that were academically going to be the ones that prepared their children were the schools started by Gulen people. But what kept them in the movement was this vision of living their own lives in such a way that there's meaning and value and happiness from that, but also making a difference in the world, making the world a safe place for everyone, including their own children. And I felt really confronted on a personal level, not just as a professional, but personally I felt confronted by it because I realized that I myself had become cynical and didn't really believe that people could operate and live in the world from those types of clean motives.
The movement is known as the Hizmet movement, after the Turkish word for service, and also the Gulen movement, after its inspiration, Fethullah Gulen.
He is a person who helps me put my life on a solid foundation in terms of making meaning in my life, in terms of having this serenity of my heart as to why I live, what my life serves.
There are so many things that you have to do, but you start losing yourself. So getting together in the sohbet, you restructure all your priorities, and with that, you start feeling human again.
Gulen's followers meet weekly in small groups called sohbets, where they recommit to their values, share ideas, and work on charitable projects.
It can be a scholarship, or it can relate to the Ramadan. We try to help the community, we try to help the students, we try to help the poor.
This is not about individual enlightenment. This is about making the world a better place. But while I'm making the world a better place, at the same time, this altruism is also transformative.
Actually, his most important message is, of course, that work hard, make money, use that money to invest in things that will help the people improve their lives, and that's education, that's hospitals, health services, that's also solidarity associations and foundations that will cater to the needs of the poor.
The exchange of ideas and beliefs with people of other faiths and cultures is a cornerstone of Gulen's teaching. To increase dialogue and friendship between Muslims, Jews, and Christians, Gulen reached out to Sephardi Chief Rabbi Bakshi Doron of Israel, as well as Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew I of Constantinople.
Sayın hocamızla birbirimizi çok seviyoruz. Ve eminim ki burada hazır bulunanlardan kimse buna kıskanmıyor.
In recognition of his efforts in interfaith work, the Vatican invited Fethullah Gulen to meet Pope John Paul II.
Biz böyle yan yana durduğumuz zaman bazı kimseleri tanıma imkanını bulacağız. Biz hepimiz de belki bir dönemde böyle tek taraflı, sadece kendi düşüncemizi iltizam, kendi cephemizi iltizam ve karşı tarafı ademe mahkum etme, ne olursa olsun onları silme, süpürme, atma gibi mülahazalarla. Öyle bir kültür ortamında yetiştik. Belki o günlere mahsus olmak üzere hissiyatımızı ifade ederken feveranlarımız da oldu. Üslup hatalarımız oldu. Ama dünyanın akıbeti böyle çok kötüye doğru kaydığı bir dönemde. Şimdi bunları daha iyi fark ediyoruz. Bunlara meydan vermemek lazım.
After 9/11, interfaith dialogue and tolerance became very fashionable in the world for understandable reasons. But the Gulen movement began interfaith dialogue and tolerance in the 90s, way before 9/11, way before it was really fashionable, because it's in the core of their teaching.
In addition to raising money for interfaith activities in schools, the movement now owns a think tank, a book publisher, a television station, and Zaman, the newspaper with the highest circulation in Turkey. Partly because of the movement's success, Fethullah Gulen is as reviled by some as he is revered by others. In Turkey, his critics have expressed concern that he will bring Sharia law. He has also been accused of conspiring with everyone from the CIA to Zionists and Catholics.
There are so many people following the, footsteps in moral sense of Fethullah Gulen, but they also have a political power, and they also have the power to build up networks. Now, what about if these people go into the bureaucracy and have a kind of their own hierarchy within the bureaucracy? So, some people would say, this is a state within a state, maybe.
Some people of Turkish society, they are afraid from that. They said, we don't know what will they do. Yes, they are praying, they are doing something on the educational side, on the trade side, commercial side, but we don't know what will they do.
In 1999, Fethullah Gulen came to the U.S. for medical treatment. In his absence from Turkey, he was accused by a special government prosecutor of leading an Islamist network intent on undermining the secular Turkish government.
The establishment felt threatened by this rise of sort of a middle-class bourgeois movement, and that it had this religious leader, used Sufi ideas about tolerance and about education, about sharing, and about everybody having part of the economic pie. And so I think that was the greatest challenge to the establishment. And so what they did is they used their anti-terror law and charged him as a terrorist, basically.
When you have the kind of ideology that the military particularly had and some of the really hardline secular elites, they did not trust anyone. And therefore, anyone who was associated with a public organization that was, yes, Muslim and Islamically oriented, but not an Islamic political movement, that really didn't matter. And so I think there were concerns about ultimately his security.
In poor health, Fethullah Gulen remained in self-imposed exile at a retreat in Pennsylvania while awaiting the outcome of his trial.